You are now watching the program Eco Diplomacy. Today, we will talk about trade and investment in economic cooperation, how Israel is redefining foreign direct investment and aid for the 21st century. We will therefore be receiving for this purpose His Excellency Ran Gidor, Ambassador of the Israelite state to Cameroon. Hello, Ambassador, and thanks for coming.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
David Ben-Gurion, the primary national founder of the State of Israel and also the first Prime Minister of Israel, said, I state, Israel's program of development cooperation in Africa is a moral commitment. Shall we consider this statement a slogan or a reality?
It's very much a reality. Israel is nowadays a very prosperous country, but people forget that Israel is also a young country. We were established in 1948, only 12 years before Cameroon became independent. However, David Ben-Gurion, the founding father of the State of Israel, he put a special stress on the fact that we had to reach out to other young countries, especially developing countries, and share with them our scientific research, our scientific achievements, and that's exactly what we have been doing since the 1950s. So Israel was amongst the first foreign countries to cooperate with Cameroonian farmers, agricultural workers, academics, already in the early 60s, long before we became a prosperous economy. So it's far from a slogan, it's reality on the ground.
Talking of Mashav, the Israel's Agency for International Development Cooperation, whose program in Cameroon mainly focuses on the transfer of knowledge and technology for public sector programs exclusively. What kind of support could a private entrepreneur in Cameroon expect from Mashav?
Mashav has a vast range of activities,
yeah.
And I will mention just a few in response to your question.
Mm-hmm.
For example, every year we invite to Israel many Cameroonian experts in various fields for training.
Okay.
On a vast range of topics. It could be agriculture, it could be water treatment, water purification, women's empowerment, public health, high-tech, innovation and entrepreneurship, a vast range of subjects. And I'm proud to say that Cameroon is number 2 in the whole African continent in the number of people who are invited every year to Israel for training. Every year, on average, 65 Cameroonians arrive in Israel for training. All the expenses in Israel are covered by Mashav. The Cameroonian trainee only has to cover the cost of the flight ticket. Now, these training courses are open for all Cameroonian individuals, not just public sector. We receive in Israel for this kind of training every year dozens and dozens of private Cameroonian individuals. The information on the training courses is available freely on the website of the Israeli embassy or the Mashav website. So any member of the public in Cameroon could look at the website and apply. And we welcome private sector people. In addition to that, we bring Israeli experts to Cameroon several times a year to conduct training seminars here. And this is also open for private sector individuals. And finally, the last example I would like to mention is that we believe in cooperation between public and private sectors. So very often we bring to Cameroon Israeli technologies that were developed by private Israeli enterprises that are specifically suited to the Cameroonian market. For example, very cheap, very innovative water purification technology. It's just a box that it doesn't require electricity or even a power generator. It's just manual lever use. You put one pipe in the most polluted river, you pump it, and from the other side comes drinking water.
Wow.
And this unit can provide 500 liters of drinking water per hour, which means that a village community of maybe 300, 400 people could get enough drinking water for 3 years if they use it. So this is an example for private sector technology that here we are promoting vis-a-vis the public sector in Cameroon. Yeah.
Africa as a continent is a priority for Mashaf. However, priority countries will include Ethiopia, Ghana, Kenya, Rwanda, Senegal, South Sudan, and Uganda. Cameroon is within these special interest countries, as well as Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, and Togo. Could we then consider that Cameroon is not a center of development aid and investment for the state of Israel?
Cameroon is a priority country for Israel for several reasons. First of all, we have a tradition of almost 60 years of friendship. And when I say friendship, it's not just a slogan. Israel is supporting Cameroon's counter-terrorism struggle against Boko Haram. Israel was very instrumental in supporting Cameroon on many, many different spheres already back in the 60s and 70s. And we appreciate the Cameroonian diplomatic support in the UN, United Nations. So it's not a slogan. We consider Cameroon a close ally of the State of Israel, and all the top politicians in this country and in my country are aware of that. This is the first consideration. Secondly, Israel is not as big, of course, or as rich as France or Germany or the United States. So we have only 11 embassies in Africa. 11 embassies that have to cover a continent of 54 nations. So the fact that we chose to have an embassy in Yaoundé, the only place in Central Africa where we have an embassy, is significant because Cameroon has the largest economy in the CEMAC region. Yes, more than 50% of the collective GDP of CEMAC. So we recognize the fact that the Cameroonian economy, despite all the well-known problems, is actually a significant regional powerhouse. And this is why it's important for us to be here. Now, you mentioned some of the other countries in Africa, like
Ghana, Kenya, Cote d'Ivoire, and Togo.
Undoubtedly, as we all know, they are more advanced than Cameroon. And the economies in the countries that you mentioned are developing more rapidly. But we think that Cameroon has all the conditions to break out and become a high-achieving economy, a prosperous economy in the next few years. So we believe in the future of this country. This is not about philanthropy. This is because we invest in Cameroon because it makes sense for us to invest in Cameroon.
Well, talking right now of infrastructural development, we know that infrastructural projects, development and financing are nowadays the cornerstone of economic cooperation. Cameroon is facing a new challenge in these gaps in terms of providing infrastructural technology and financial support for infrastructural projects in Cameroon. Do you consider this as an opportunity for the Israel's multinational companies looking for new business opportunities in Africa?
As I said, the Israeli system, the Israeli economy is operating on a different level and a different scale than, say, the Chinese, the Indians, the Turkish companies. We don't specialize in mega infrastructure projects like building bridges or highways or water dams. This we leave to the big players. Yes. What we do, we discover, we identify niche markets where we have added value as a result of our research and development. The traditional Israeli spheres of excellence where we make business all over Africa are water technology, water treatment, water purification, water management, water supply, biogas, and I'm happy to say that right now we are about to complete our first project in collaboration with the Cameroonian Ministry of Secondary Education to introduce biogas, which is produced from organic waste into secondary schools all over Cameroon. Alternative energy, for example, solar energy, hydro energy, we're very good at that, and ICT, communication technology, which is perfect for a developing country because it means that you can jump ahead. You don't need to install landlines or old-style telephone communication systems all over Cameroon, but you can jump ahead to 21st century kind of communications, which is very cheap and available and accessible. Also, cyber technology, of course, and agriculture. We come from a country that is 60% desert. However, Israel is the only country in the world where the desert is decreasing, shrinking, despite global warming. Cameroon has been blessed with a lot of rain, many rivers, lakes, except for the north and the extreme north, of course. But the problem in Cameroon is that the water is not collected and treated properly. So only about 30% of the population of Yaoundé, for example, has access to water. So these are niche fields that we are probably global leaders, and we can cooperate with partners in Cameroon. What we need more than anything else is private sector partners. We don't need so much government cooperation. We believe in free markets. Governments form a hurdle, but governments are very bureaucratic heavy. Not just the Cameroonian government, all governments. The Israeli government the same.
Yeah.
We need deregulation. We need to remove the obstacles for bilateral trade so that Israeli private investors and businessmen will come here and they will be able to connect with potential Cameroonian partners very quickly with very few bureaucratic obstacles. This would be an ideal situation.
So we'll understand that the Israelite country is ready to accept private partners.
Absolutely.
Okay, Mr. Ambassador, how do you identify key development aid opportunities in Cameroon that may impact the future generation?
We all know that, first of all, Cameroon is struggling with the same difficulties that are facing the entire African continent. Population explosion, shrinking arable land that can be cultivated, there's lack of food security. And of course, global warming, and in the future, as we've seen recently, for example, in Mozambique, natural catastrophes like typhoons. So far, Cameroon hasn't experienced a typhoon, but Cameroon has experienced other natural disasters. So, of course, the combination of global warming, population explosion will increase poverty. And as we see around the Lake Chad, the disappearance of Lake Chad is fostering terrorism on a regional scale. So these are huge problems. In addition to that, I think Cameroon has its own specific problems that unfortunately have come to the surface in the past 2 years in the Anglophone regions and elsewhere. However, we think that all these problems are surmountable. I'll give you one example. Israel is a global leader in minimizing post-harvest loss of crops. What I mean by that is the following. After agricultural crops are grown in the field and they're being harvested and picked and sent to the market or the shop or the supermarket, some of it gets lost because of exposure to the rain, to the sun, because of bad packing conditions, bad roads. In Africa, on average, 50% of the food doesn't make it to the selling point. It gets wasted and lost.
And so if you were to advise Cameroon on that aspect, what would you tell our government to do?
Well, we are already working very closely with MINADER, the Ministry of Agriculture, and with the relevant UN agencies, for example, the World Food Programme. But the implications are dramatic, because it means if you can minimize the loss of crops, it means that in order to feed 100% more Cameroonians, you don't need to grow 100% more food. You need to treat better the 50% that is getting wasted and lost. Sometimes it's very simple. Sometimes all you need to do is wrap the fruit with a piece of paper to protect it from insects.
Okay.
You see?
Just some very simple techniques.
Exactly. We're not talking about heavy investment.
Reports of many institutions and economic experts agree on one point, which is that Africa represents a very, very important investment opportunity and potential. What is the best way for Cameroonian public sector leaders to improve on commodity trading outside of Cameroon, as well as from the foreign direct investment to Cameroon?
Well, this is a very good question, and I know that the Cameroonian government is already working hand in hand with the World Bank on improving the business environment for foreign investors. Now, it's not easy to do business in Cameroon for foreign investors. What I would advise the government to do is, first of all, to step back. Just let the free market do its work. If you deregulate, if you cancel all the regulations, bureaucratic requirements, and you just let the free market do business, that could be the best thing. The problem for foreign businessmen and foreign investors who come to Cameroon is that, first of all, there's a lot of bureaucracy and a lot of time wasted on complying with various government directives. You know, the Cameroonian government has 66 ministers.
Yeah.
For a nation of 25 million.
It's quite enormous.
It's 4 ministers of education, you know. So if you consider that each government department, each government ministry generates its own bureaucratic work, the foreign investor is getting lost in this. Secondly, you need to know that your investment is secure. When you move into a new market, you invest money, you inject money, and you know that after 2 or 3 years you will see a return on your investment profit. But you need to risk your money if you know that your money is safe. But unfortunately, the conditions in Cameroon are such that foreign investors do not trust the local conditions, and they think that if they invest money, they will never see it back, for all sorts of reasons. The main problem, of course, is corruption that is not unique to Cameroon. We see corruption in many countries.
All
Yes.
over the world.
All over the world, even
in African countries would say so.
Well, it's typical in Africa, in some Latin American countries, in Asia, even in the Middle East. I mean, it's not. I'm not saying that Cameroon is exceptional,
Yeah.
but this is a problem that has to be addressed. And at the very least, the foreign investor needs to know that if he comes across a case of corruption, he can turn to a law enforcement mechanism, or can take his complaint to a government authority that will deal with this case of corruption. There has to be someone that you can turn to for help. Yeah.
His Excellency Ran Guido, Ambassador of Israel to Cameroon, thank you very much for having assisted this program.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
It's on this that we draw the curtains of this interview. I have been Juliana Befolo to serve you.